U.S. and coalition forces are using rockets and other means to enforce a no-fly zone and demolish parts of the Libyan military. Is this the start of another war American fighting men and women will be sent into? Let's bring in an expert, NBC News military analyst, General Barry McCaffrey, joining us live from Washington. It is a privilege to have you, sir. Thanks for your time. I guess let's start.
Good to be with you.
Let's start with what is going to be considered a victory for the Obama administration, or maybe a loss, and is Gaddafi the real target here?
Well, I think we got a quandary. We went in for humanitarian reasons. Benghazi is on the verge of falling. We feared the slaughter of the rebellion in the ensuing aftermath of taking the city. Splendid performance by the U.S. Navy and Air Force and Marine Corps have gone in there along with the Brits and French as allies and smashed up all the armor in front of Benghazi, destroyed his air defense system, and probably terrified the senior leadership. Now the question comes, what next? It's hard to imagine how we get Gaddafi out of office. We certainly don't have a UN resolution that authorizes us to do that. And we're hopeful to turn this over to our allies and fade into the background the coming days, according to Secretary of Defense.
General, it's been an impressive show over the last couple of days, but did Western intervention come a little too late here?
Well, I think it would have been, of course, immeasurably better had we acted a couple of weeks ago when the momentum had taken the rebels right to the gates of Tripoli, the prize, 2 million people. Having said that, it was thought, and I think correctly so, that you needed Arabic support as well as a UN resolution. That's what we finally got, and in the nick of time, we've probably stopped the threat to Benghazi. The question now arises, does this go on endlessly? And by the way, the no-fly zone has very little to do with protecting the people on the ground from artillery, armored personnel carriers, and tanks.
You know, several members of Congress had a little criticism of the president and the administration over the weekend on the handling of this situation. Is the president sending mixed messages here?
Well, I think so. You know, I think their impulse was one of humanitarianism, which is fine. I'm a little bit bothered that the president went on a trip, the Secretary of Defense went to Russia, and we had the chairman of the JCS explaining to the American people what was going on in the war we just initiated, as well as General Carter Ham, the 4-star U.S. Army commander who's been running the operation. This is a commitment of the U.S. Armed Forces. Now we got problems in NATO agreeing to accept responsibility. The Turks are causing problems. The French don't like NATO. They're in the background. We need to sort this thing out, or we're going to be stuck with a long Bosnia-type intervention.
Next couple of weeks, critical. General Barry McCaffrey, thank you so much for your time tonight. NBC News military analyst joining us live from Washington, of course, for the very latest on the ground in Libya and from Washington. We invite you to watch NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams. That's coming up at 6:30.